Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my Sunday morning chat where I talk about things that for me are important to be living consciously, eating consciously. And I always welcome your thoughts. Mine is one viewpoint. There are hundreds, if not millions, of viewpoints on whatever topic you might talk about. Anyway, this morning is going to be on more conscious living. And there's a couple of positive success stories that I wanted to share with you this morning. And there's a third one that's, you know, something to cause us to think about in terms of our food and how we store our food. So the first thing, I'm big on recycling. I've been recycling, oh, for a long time, even before they had curbside recycling, because I knew that what I was using shouldn't be going into the landfill. And even now, I have sort of old clothing. I'm going, okay, what do I do with this? What do I do with this shirt? Once it's past giving to anybody, it's rag and tag, um, and we seem to have this extreme abundance of clothing because we always go for new things all the time. And how do we stop that? Um, Living more consciously and being more sort of mindful of uh, where that clothing's come from and what happens in the end. What's the exit out of your closet? Anyway, so one of the things I'm going to be talking about is to do with clothing. And so, we've got this where I live, recycling curbside. Um, Glass, paper, soft plastics, not now at the curbside, but newspapers and all sorts of plastics we can put outside. They've got compost um, recycling. So there's lots of really good things happening, and there's so much more we can do. And so, I mean, recycling is good. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's kind of the least environmentally proficient of the three R's. You've got It takes energy to repurpose them, especially glass, where it takes nearly 80% of the energy to recycle in order to reuse it again. And ideally, reducing what we use comes from reducing what we buy. There's reduce, reuse, recycle. Yes, reuse it where you can. I do a lot of that when I can. And then, I mean, how many plastic containers or glass jars that I've bought, say, you know, um, pickles in or sauces in, and it can only do reuse. I mean, some of the glasses we use every day, it's actually from those smaller pasta bottles, and we went through all these other ones, different glasses we bought at the store. And then we just decided, you know what? Let's just see it. They're just, I don't know, 8-10 ounces. They're perfect. So we use them for our drinking glasses. We have a few left of the other ones. So yeah, different creative ways of reusing things. And so, why do we buy all this stuff? And I think we're missing that spiritual connection to our soul spirit and to the earth. And the one really simple thing we can do is to uh, get outside more and be outside, whether it's your garden or a park in the city you live in, and bring mindfulness into that activity. A lot more complex. We'll go into some other time. The first thing I found from Rob Herring, Earth Conscious Life email, was called Zero Waste Island. And it's a tiny Greek island that previously sent 87% of its waste to the landfill. And it's revolutionized the whole island. And it's now the world's first zero waste island. Now it is small. There's only just over 700 residents, but they're doing it. They're actually doing it. And by successfully utilizing 100% creative upcycling and composting initiatives, this island has recently closed the dump site. Can you imagine? The eco conscious shift created new job opportunities related to renewable energy installation, ecotourism, and sustainable agriculture, and has beautified the landscape with a reduction in non biodegradable trash. Before the project began, the island sent 87% to the landfill. 100% of it is now diverted from the dump. The scheme has proved such a success that the island no longer has any rubbish bins, and the landfill site has now closed completely. I mean, for me, that's just a dream come true. In their place is the Center for Creative Upcycling, where items can either be repaired, reused, or turned into raw art supplies or building materials. The project was overseen and paid for by Polygreen, a Greek company that specializes in circular economy solutions, but much of their success came through education. They went to all the homes, they provided each home with all the necessary um, recycling containers and educated them. And even the older folks are going, wow, this is fantastic, kind of what it used to be before they had all the stuff that they needed to deal with. And this one person, this 24-year-old Emmanuel Futeres, he said, I believe that nowhere else will match the quality of life I experience here in Tilos, Tilos, one of 745 residents living on the small Greek island located between Rhodes and Kos. This change has not only beautified the island's landscape, but also protected its delicate ecosystems and marine life. All waste is taken to the 3K Circular Innovation Center. Some waste is used as an alternative fuel for the cement industry. So I wonder if some of it gets burned off. The article didn't explain how that happened. And also, there's a protected national park, which is 63 square kilometers. And it's an important site for falcons, long legged buzzards, and a number of migratory bird species that use Tilos as a stopover between Africa and Europe. Its environmental progress could also provide a blueprint for a cleaner, greener future for humankind as well. He says, in the beginning, it was fun, but time consuming and energy draining at the same time, says Fataras. But we all helped each other until we could master it. And that's a community coming together. And I was amazed how old people embrace the idea of no rubbish like the good old times. And that gave me hope and courage to do it. The second report was about refugees in Amsterdam who are being hired to repair clothing for resale. It is doing so to the sound of Arab pop music, mechanical hum of sewing machines, and conversations in rudimentary Dutch. This was set up last September with support from the city government and outdoor clothing brand Patagonia. The center employs around 20 full time workers to repair ripped or broken clothing that would otherwise be dumped in the bin. Run as a for profit social enterprise, the center's goals are as much social as they are circular. Everyone on the company's books is an economic migrant or refugee, or as the initiative's Brazilian born co founder, Tammy Schwartzler, prefers to say, a newcomer. One such new arrival is Ramzi, a 50-year-old Palestinian who escaped to Amsterdam after life in his adopted home of Syria became untenable. Before the country's descent into violence, he worked as a tailor in Damascus, specializing in clothes for girls. The center's impact goes beyond just a regular pay packet. Help comes from those who are settling into a new country, from pointing them to language classes to assisting them with housing support or legal advice. Now, there's a worrying cloud on the horizon, which is the politics of immigration in the Netherlands, as asylum applications are expected to hit 70,000 this year, up from 47,000 last year. That's a huge influx for the Netherlands. And what are they going to do about it? Uh, yeah, compassionate ministry in the government of some kind. Makers Unites production is overseen by Fadi, a 39-year-old Syrian. His small team of tailors is currently putting the last touches to a new collection of upcycled jeans and denim jackets for the clothing retailer C&A. And this program is actually also, they're migrating it to the United Kingdom in Leeds, where it's a huge, I think there's a huge clothing industry. And so that's their next project. Now, the next issue is not to do with clothing. It's got to do with how we serve and store our food, and the whole thing about plastics. The first part is microwaving plastic, and I hope that you don't do that at all. And have you switched to glass containers? And these microsafe plastics apparently release unfathomable amounts of microplastics and or nanoplastics into our food, according to a new study. And we know, I talked about this a while back, and how the ocean is filled with these nanoplastics that are just molecules big and too small to actually collect. So it's incumbent upon us, for our health and the health of the planet and the oceans and all the life that lives in the oceans, to be aware of this and take action. And it was found that some containers could release as many as 4.22 million microplastic bits and 2.11 billion nanoplastic particles from only 1 square centimeter of plastic area within 3 minutes of microwave heating. That's amazing. Something to pause for thought. Now, refrigeration and room temperature storage for over 6 months can also release millions to billions of microplastics and nanoplastics. And where is that going? Into your body. We're these sacred divine beings. And our technology has taken us so far forward. And are we aware of what it's doing to us? Now, I'm not saying I'll go back to the land, go back to the, I don't know, 1500s, whatever it is, where they didn't have plastics. But we can make choices. And that study was done on August 8th, 2023. A team from Nebraska Lincoln University in the US ran experiments using baby food containers made from polypropylene and polyethylene, which are both approved as safe to use by the regulators at the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, your American FDA. Microwaving water or dairy products inside polypropylene or polyethylene products is likely to deliver the highest relative concentrations of plastic, the researchers revealed. Particles were also released when food and drinks were refrigerated and stored at room temperature, but significantly fewer in number. While more detailed research and testing is going to be needed to establish just how damaging these plastic particles can be once they get into the body, I mean, that's the next round of research, it's clear that this is an issue that needs investigating. Our reliance on plastic could be causing significant effects on our body. I thought silicone was a great alternative, but I had some doubts, and so I did a little more reading. Now, silicone is different from plastic. It's made from silica, found in sand, and it's much longer lasting than plastic in the environment. So, longer lasting in the environment. Yes, in our homes and in the environment, as well as being used as in products. Silicone endures extreme fluctuation in temperatures from very cold to oven hot without melting, cracking, or otherwise degrading. With more than 5 trillion pieces of plastic floating in our oceans, using less plastic means contributing less to the mounting mass of plastics lost in our environment and poisoning our wildlife. I mean, that's a valid point. If disposed of at a landfill for incineration, silicone, unlike plastic, is converted back into inorganic, harmless ingredients for silica, carbon dioxide, and water vapor. But that doesn't mean when it goes into the landfill, it's doing that, because it doesn't get that heat that um, the burning does. Not all silicone is created equal either. To reduce costs, some manufacturers add fillers to the product. They, so your test is to pinch and twist a flat surface on the item. If white shows up through the product, it contains filler. But the production of silicone isn't necessarily superior to plastic, and resources such as petroleum are burnt to create the substance with numerous negative environmental consequences. It's that cradle to grave. There was a book written several years ago, and the cradle to grave concept, we bring it out into a reality, and then what do we do with it when we're done? You know, and so are these good reasons to switch to silicone? And I myself have some, and I always wondered, is this safer than plastic? You might not have these polyethylene things going into your body, and I use it for packaging for taking food to school and that kind of thing. But I'm going, is that the best thing? Um, so it's not biodegradable, and it's less likely to break down and be discarded as plastic. So that's one of the reasons they give to use the silicone. And then you've got, I mentioned about the resources it uses to create it. Um, and then you get more use out of them than you do with plastic. So it's less going to landfill. And I'm not sure that that's actually um, all that beneficial. Anyway, something for you to think about. And there's an alternative called bioplastics, and it's called polylactic acid, PLA. And they have similar properties to silicone, and they can be used in food packaging. And they're made by converting the sugar present in corn, sugarcane, and wheat or potatoes. And the result is a plant-based plastic that's much better for the environment than oil-based plastics. It will naturally degrade in a much shorter time frame than plastic or silicone. And that I haven't done the research on. My question is, how long does that take? Because sometimes I get things that says it's recyclable or biodegradable, and I'll stick it in my garden, and I've got it for a long time after. So I'm going, maybe it needs the heat produced in a landfill to. But the thing is, a landfill is a bubble, and it yeah, it's a package that can't really deal with. A landfill is a landfill. Some of that stuff lasts for thousands of years. Glass is another one. It avoids chemical contamination and it's okay with higher temperatures. And again, it can be recycled, but it takes a lot of energy to do so. And if you don't mind the odd chip that's not sharp, then you can use it for a little longer. And the other alternative is stainless steel. And stainless steel, it's a mixed metal such as chromium, molybdenum, iron, and sometimes nickel. So that does have to be extracted from the earth. It's a non-porous alloy, and it's inert to alkali and acidic foods. So it's safe for tomato sauce, meat, milk, raw veggies. It can prevent decay in food and in turn wastage. And these are the claims that this one site who sells these stainless steel containers who's making. And it is recyclable. It's reusable. And the best thing is the coating, they apparently put some kind of coating that is safe, repairs itself with oxygen. So I'm not quite sure what that meant. It's safe to store your food in stainless steel pots because it's antibacterial. Again, you can go dive deeper into more research, and the viruses can't survive their surface because it's so slippery. So within a few hours, apparently, the smoothness, there's nothing for the virus to cling to. So that's another thing for your research. And there's something called rustless steel, and I'll include the link on my webpage. And it remove residues of tea and spices with baking soda and boiling water with up to 15 minutes of soaking. Just be careful of the abrasive material. Wire wool, the steel wool, and the iron scrubs can leave scratch marks on the rustless steel, and they can destroy this passive film coating on the surface of these containers, which exacerbates the corrosion. So just be mindful of what you clean it with. There's something called authentic stainless steel duplex. It's the kind of stainless steel container, and that is the strongest in all categories. So there's just kind of a brief synopsis of some win-wins that we've got with our clothing. Actually, they're both. Um, we recycling, reusing, and on the island of Telos, recycling everything. I mean, imagine. I've always thought of a landfills being obsolete. And how do we do that? How do we do that as individuals? And we can by our choices that we bring into our home. You know, and I live in Delta, British Columbia. I live in the suburbs, and I am close to everything. I can buy just about anything I want. And where do we reach that point of satisfaction within ourselves, of kind of doing the right thing, uh, being more of a minimalist, and just making smarter choices, and just be, learning out there, doing your research, be your own advocate, and for us to be healthy, to have that natural immune system that we need during these trying times, you know, cook your own food, find the joy, be mindful in your cooking and your eating. There's so many positive things we can do, and just sending loving light to the earth, to sending loving light to all of humanity. We're all human beings. We're all these beautiful, sacred designs created by God, Allah, the Creator, the all-powerful, whatever name you give it. We have this divine design, and our body knows what to do with real whole food. So stop buying those cute little packages of stuff for your snacks or your kids or yourself for lunches. What's in that package? What's the food made out of? And what can you substitute it for? And I know some of you have busy lives, but a little pre-preparation, you can do it. Take those first steps. And so I encourage you to do that in the best way that you can. So until we meet again, namaste, blessings of love and light, and have a great day and a great week. Thank you for listening.